In this program, I am setting up a room reservation system. I actually had this idea from a comment, but I realized that it could be useful. I remember in college having to reserve rooms. I've seen it in workplaces and things of that nature, and I saw how it could be a useful tool for people. And especially since I've been working with Google Calendars so much using app scripts, I thought it'd be an easy transition for me to cover a topic like this as well. So I'm going to dive right in here. You can see the example data. Aurora Monroe is Storm from X-Men, if you are wondering. Yes, she's great. And then that's me there, Kurt Kaiser. It's all linked into this simplistic form, just gets their basic information, name, email, date, time, duration, room. What I was showing you quickly is that you can require data validation of an email to make sure you actually get an email address. All right, so tools and script editor. Excellent. First, for a creative title, room reservation system. Perfect. And let's get rid of this generic function stuff. Room reservation system, video. Me, the year. Oh, all rights reserved. Okay, sure. However, the code is posted below in the description and probably linked other places too. Feel free to use it, manipulate it, mock it, change it, all of that good stuff. I'm starting off doing kind of standard fare here. Google does it in most of their app script example situations on their site and with their tutorials. I'm setting up the variable SS, which is spreadsheet app, and it's just the active spreadsheet, the whole thing. And then sheet is going to reference the actual sheet we will be using. And then last column and last row, I'm going to go ahead and make those universal variables because we will be using them throughout a number of our functions. And I just felt like it was going to be easier to declare. Well, it is easier to declare them at the top, and it ensures that we don't have to declare them redundantly throughout several different functions. All right, and look, I'm getting good and having comments. Create an object from a user submission. So from what this is going to do is it's going to create the object. So when the user submits to the form, this is going to grab that data and put it into an array. Well, and by array, I mean object. All right, so we start off. I set var row equals last row because I'm going to build onto this application, so I did want to go ahead and use row throughout this constructor, throughout this object constructor, and you'll see why that is later. Right now, I'm counting these up because I need to know where the info is. So name is in column 2, email is in column 3, reason is in column 4. This is signifying that it's an object constructor. This is just going to reference the object that is being created using it. And then again, sheet get range, what that is doing, it's referencing back to that spreadsheet that I was just on. And it says look at row and then column number 2 for on line 14 name. And what I'm doing now is I'm copying and pasting. I'm being lazy, but efficient. So I have name now. Email, I think, was in column 3. And I'm just going to go ahead through and edit all of these columns. Yep. Yeah. And I could have just hard-coded in row as last row, but again, I'm going to add on to this application later on, and it makes it easier to go ahead and leave row as row right now, which is why I just have the variable row equals last row at the top. And now I'm just running through and making sure time, looks like I got a little lost. Duration is 7th, reason is 8. And notice when you're referencing a column, you are referencing, columns don't start at 0, columns start at 1, because it's how they're referenced within spreadsheets themselves, not within code count, I guess. And then return this. All right, so now that that is done, the constructor is made. Ooh, I'm going to go ahead and do a main function, I guess to demonstrate the constructor. Variable, ooh, what should we name it? Ooh, request equals new submission. Yep, and submission's that name of that object constructor, and so my object's name is going to be request. Then I'm going to log request. Oh, I'm working a lot with Java right now. I'm in another course, not JavaScript. I'm working a lot with Java, and being able just to log a whole object like that, I appreciate it. All right, save it. Let's go ahead and debug main. Hopefully we have no... let's protect me, Google. Thank you. Review app permissions, advance, proceed. Yes, I trust myself to not break anything some days. That looks good. Logs. Date, duration. Numbers. Why am I getting Oh. Alright, let's delete those numbers and see how the next round goes. Hopefully... that looks much better. Date, we're getting a date, duration, yep. Name looks good, time looks good. Excellent. Oh, that's what I'm doing. So now I'm also going to make these universal variables so I can reference the calendars throughout the code. Ooh, and it looks like I need to go grab the calendars. So yeah, these are the calendars I'm outputting to. Notice that I have multiple calendars, right? So I have room 101, 102, 103, so on and so forth. And you do use a calendar for each one. I think it will make sense as you watch this. It's just much easier to do it that way. What I'm doing though is I'm grabbing the calendar ID because I can create a variable that represents that calendar if I have the calendar ID. So I'm going to use Google Apps Script again, calendar.app with the method getCalendarById, and then I'm just going to go ahead and paste in that ID that I had just copied it down. And now this is going to be a bit redundant. I'm grabbing the calendar ID for calendar 102. Same deal here. I'm declaring a variable cal102 equals calendar app getCalendarById, and then the calendar's ID. Calendar 103, calendar app, getCalendarById. And I need to just go grab that ID again. What am I doing? I'm getting more efficient. Paste. And I think I have one more. Seems right. Alright, let's go get some IDs. There we are. Paste. Excellent. What calendar are we on now? Now 202. And the idea is that these are room numbers. Cal 202. There's its ID. And finally, calendar 203. Its ID. Excellent. Save that. And that looks good. All right, so now we'll be able to reference the calendars throughout. And again, those are universal variables because we'll be using them in a multitude of ways. So now I'm going to beef up our submission constructor, our object constructor here. This .date string. We are going to need to use the dates as a string in the email output. yeah, when we're sending emails about our reservations. So it was easiest to go ahead and do that within the object constructor itself, since it will need to be associated with it eventually. And this way, if we're running through emails multiple times, we don't have to keep generating it. Okay, that looks good. Save that. I really like saving, if you've noticed. It's because I make lots of mistakes and I accidentally delete and close things, and I'm terrified of that. So I save a lot. This I think is yes, it's going to be a time string. Same thing, if we're running through sending multiple emails about our event, it's better just to make them up here, have it done, than have it generate each time we're running through to create that email. It eliminates redundancy. To local time string, and these methods all native within JavaScript, of course. Room int. So to interact with our rooms do have room numbers, and I'm going to utilize that to reference them. So I do need to make sure that whatever room is selected, that we can turn into a integer. Because they might select it will say something like, I don't know, lecture hall 102. Which is great, and that's what we want the form to say, so people are clear on what room they are selecting. People usually don't just know a room number. However, for our purposes, we then want to strip out just that 102, because coding-wise, it makes it easier just to deal with the integer than a variable character. Well, than a string or a character array, so on and so forth. So we're just using the integers, and that's what I'm doing there. Room int is going to take that room and just create an integer of it. Oh, what am I racing through now? Get me in trouble. This date dot set hours. Ah, yes. So they choose the date. Google automatically sets the time of a chosen date from forms to 00 to midnight. Um, and what I am doing then is taking the time that the user selected, and I am shoving that into the date they selected. So I'm saying, hey, get the hours of the date. Or no, I'm saying, wow, I'm moving all around. On line 34, this dot date set hours. Now on 33, I'm going to set the hours of that date, now on line 32, by using, now on line 33, by using this dot time get hours. So I'm saying, hey code, get the hours out of the time, and now set those hours to the date. And that's what I do below that with the minutes. So I'm just making sure the time that was entered by the user is actually the time that is paired with the date variable. All right. Ah, and we need an in time. We need to know how long this event is going to take place. Obviously, the user selected a duration. However, we're going to go ahead and convert that over to a time that we can actually use with the computer. I debated having them put in an in time, but my concern was with it being open-ended like that, you might want to set a specific time limit, and with it being open-ended, that could create some headaches. So what we got going on here is function get in time. I'm going to pass to in time our request object that I created in main as a parameter. And so request.intime.new date request.date. So I'm creating a new date just from our already declared date variable. So in time at first is going to equal exactly what date does. And remember, date at this point will have the updated time in it that the user selected. Once it does, now that that's all taken care of, I'm using a switch statement. So we have our date with our time updated, and I'm saying switch, and all I'm doing is going through and looking at the strings request.duration. So request.duration is our request object there. It is what they inputted on the form for duration. So if that equals 30 minutes, what am I doing? Request.intime.set minutes, request.date.get minutes plus 30. That's a complicated way of getting the time from our date, adding 30 minutes to it, and assigning it to our in time. So I'm just updating our in time with those minutes. And then I'm doing that again. Well, what if it's for 45 minutes? Okay, well then we need to request .intime.set minutes, get the minutes from the date, add 45 to it, and make that now the in time minutes. Now I'm doing the same with 60 minutes for an hour, and I'm using it 120 for 2 hours. Now I got all that saved, and that should have us good to go on the duration of an event. So let's go ahead and test that out. Oh. Yes, Google, I trust myself. Oh, it's because I have calendars involved in this at the top now. All right, let's see. Is in time showing up? Where is... Yes, so the duration there is an hour. The original time string was 11:30, so that would have it ending at 12:30. So that looks great. Let's go ahead and save it again. Ah, now I'm going to check for appointment conflicts. Of course, this is important. They might not be even able to see the calendar, or if you do have the calendar posted alongside the form, that's what I do. I recommend it, but mistakes are made. So the program's now going to take the submitted information and, well, look for conflicts. So are we sure that time is clear? Is there anything else going on during that time? And if there is a conflict, what needs to happen is an email will go out alerting the person that there was a conflicting event. So what I got going on here, variable conflicts equals request.calendar.getEvents request date request time. So my conflicts, what that all that complicated code they're doing on 64 is I'm trying to get events in between the request date and request in time. So that specific time frame, and then it returns it to conflicts. So conflicts will say 2 if there were 2 events during the time frame requested. And then what I flew through is if conflicts is greater, or if conflicts, which is again the amount of events already scheduled during that time frame, if it's greater than 0, then we're going to set the request status to conflicts. And the status is what we will be using to send our emails and to update our spreadsheet and to update the owner. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Instead of rewriting the HTML I use for this, it's very similar to what I've used in the past, so I'm just cruising on over to my coding site. Check yes, please, plug for my site. And there's my make email function. I'm just going to copy it and paste it. And you'll notice this is all strings. Instead of dealing with Google snippets, snippets? I believe that's what they call it. Instead of dealing with actual HTML files, especially for how small of an email and how simplistic of an email we needed, I found it much easier just to do it strings in this way. And so that's what we have. And you can see what this is doing here. Also, post links to all of this below, so feel free to use this stuff as well. Everything I'm using, please. Request.header, request.message. This is going to make more sense as I build out the program. I added request.room because our email is going to contain the room number that someone requested. We need the date string. I'm getting rid of the reason. Am I getting rid of reason? Oh, no, I'm moving it up some. And again, I'm retooling this from another project where I use a very similar confirmation system. So date string. Copy that. I think I'm going to do in time now. Mm-hmm. Yep. So we're going to include the date, and then we're going to have a line break, then we're going to include the time, then a line break, then the end time, line break, buttons. And again, you'll see me build all of that out. So now that that's set up, we can start getting on our draft email. Request.button link. I need to get the button link in a moment, which I will do. I think it's going to be to the form. Yes. So this is the button. What that request.button link, it's draft email, because we're creating, well, the parts that are going into the email. So the button link is going to be taking users to the form. So at the bottom of the email, if they need to reschedule or something like that, they can click on that button. So I'm just setting up the link to it. It is going to change though, and you'll see that in a sec. So again, I'm using a switch statement, switch request dot status. So depending on the status, and that's why above I have the request dot status equal conflict if there were other events during the scheduled time. So, however, the first one I'm dealing with is if it is approved, if everything was good to go, case, approve, and then request subject, confirmation plus request room. So we're pulling that data we've already created as part of our object. So that's the room number, or no, that would be the whole title of the room, which would be the one the user is more familiar with, plus request.date string. So it will say the room. It's then going to say reservation for, and then the date string. I'm putting all of that information in the title because if I do not, if I just had for the subject say confirmation of your room, Gmail stacks those. So if it has multiple emails to send you and you already had a recent email with the exact same subject line, it's just going to stack it. And so it will look like you had a reply to that previous email instead of a new email. I didn't like that. I felt like there was a higher likelihood that it would be missed then. So what I decided to do is put in those variables such as the room and the date of the reservation to make sure that the user does see it, that it doesn't just get stacked because all the subjects for these are the same. And then I use the header, which is what was built out in the email. So the header, if the situation is approved, is confirmation, and the request message is your room has been scheduled. And then, wow, I'm way down here on line 84. But same idea, right? So for the conflict, I'm creating a subject line. I'm notifying them of the conflicting event. I put the date string in there. I put the room number in there to make sure it's not stacked due to similar subject lines of previous emails. The header is going to be conflict in this situation of a conflict. The difference is request.button text. So in this one, I'm changing the button to say free schedule. And that's handy. I don't actually have to change the link because before it was still linking to the form and it's just going to generically say new request. Maybe the user wants to make a new room request. But when there's a conflict, I thought it would be better for the button to say reschedule. And now I'm flying through this send email function because of course, send email. And now we're going to be using Google Apps Script Mail App. So Mail App, the method is send email to, and then so to build this out, to request.email is part of that object. Subject, request.header, we just created that from the function above. And then the HTML body is make email. And remember, the make email is in that email.gs script on the side. And I want to reiterate, that's a script file. I created another script file named email. I did not create an HTML file. It's my preference, but it is less confusing to have them separate, at least for me. So now I'm going to go ahead and throw all this into the main function. Get conflicts, draft email. I've written a lot of code without testing, so hopefully everything goes well here. Save. Good. Debug. So now we're using now we're using email, so I'm going to have to go through and approve the use of email for this. Yes, Google, I trust myself. Run. Oh, those logs look. Status approve. Okay, that actually looked good. Did I get... Success! Oh, that looks great, actually. So, and as you can see now, I'm flying through. The new request button works great. My name, the room number, the reason for the reservation. I'm just going to clear that out. Excellent. Apparently I'm getting nervous. I'm going to save it again just in case. So now I'm going to plan for different situations. Oh, I was jumping the gun here. I'm not planning for different situations. I need to update the calendar. So now that I know the email system is fully functioning, I do want to make sure that this actually is going to output our events onto a calendar and create those events um, on the appropriate calendar. Because remember, each room does have a separate calendar. It's the easiest way to do this by far. So I'm flying through a variable equals request.calendar.create event because we already have that calendar object made as part of request. Request.name, request.date, yep, and request.endtime. And those are just, if you look up create event in Google Apps Script, their explanation, you do need all of those. So now what I'm doing is for me. I am creating a status column. Going a bit fast here. Oh, yes. I'm creating a status column, and with that, I'm going to output, yep, and that's what this is. Notice I'm doing it in send email, sheet.getRange, last row, last column, to get set value, sent plus request.status. So I'm going to update that column that I just named status each time an email is sent. That way I know the program ran. That way I know that these people did receive an email. And so it will just say sent, and it will say the status. So did it send conflict or did it send approve? And that way I don't have to just kind of trust the program. I can see with my own eyes if everything is working appropriately. And now down in main, I'm saying if request.status equals approve, update the calendar. That's critical because only if the status is approved do you want to have the calendar updated. Okay, that looks good again. Confirmation, sure. And I should be getting another confirmation because remember, we didn't update the calendar last time, so there shouldn't have been a conflict. Excellent. And now you can see what I was saying about the status. I can see that an approval was sent, and does it, and it's on the calendar. Flawless for now. Great. Yeah, and that information was output correctly. Good. Yes. So now I'm going to go ahead and set up triggers. And that way this program will automatically run when a user submits the information, save. So every time the form is submitted, we are running main. And main's going to go through, take a look at the submission, double check that there's not conflicts. If there's a conflict, it shoots off that email to the user and says, hi, there's a conflict. Reschedule. And if there isn't, it just confirms their appointment. So I'm going to go ahead and test that out for us. Stephen Smith. Okay. Not as cool as Aurora Monroe. Reason, lighting issue. These are exciting meetings or rooms or whatever. Okay, 9:30 in the morning, 45 minutes. Ooh, big decisions here. Oh, I'm realizing I want to make a conflicting event. That's what I'm doing. All right, so I'm testing out that the conflict's going to work. So I'm saying 30 minutes, and I need it in classroom 102. Submit. Okay. That's there. Wow, conflict's already been sent. And there it is. Formatting's great. Notice that that button said reschedule. And it shouldn't appear here. and there is no event. So that is great. Excellent. That all worked as expected. I am now apparently debating about what to do. Let's see. Oh, right. A really easy way to be closed. So if you want no one to schedule during certain times, you can just create an event all day. I undid all day so I could set the specific time frame. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to say this room is closed from 6:30 p.m. to, where'd it go? Here we are. Sure, to 8 a.m. Now, does not repeat. Obviously, those are the times, Monday through Friday, it's closed during that time. I'm setting the calendar, busy, that's all good. Let the public be aware of this, great. Room is unavailable. Ooh, I even felt the need to include a description. Room is unavailable, building is not open. And great. So the reason I'm doing this is now that that event is there, anytime someone tries to schedule when the room is closed, they'll get a conflict email. That way, people won't get confused and try to reserve the room when the building is not open. It's a really fast way to kind of take care of that issue. Now let's check that out, test it out. So 8 p.m., let's run it. Oh, I need to get rid of, so once that status is updated, oh, delete all that, yep, clear that, and now let's check. Approve, approve, approve. Oh, yeah, I shut down room 101. Well, that's good, approve works, so great. That's what I was testing. Um, Flying through, sped it up a bit. All right, let's debug again. Yep, and it won't let us schedule. However, you do see Stephen Smith down there because that building apparently was open. 102 was open. 101 was the one I had closed off. What I'm demonstrating now, if you missed it, I went and got the embedding code. And so here's my site. The best way to output this, or the way that I have found most useful, is I just throw that embedding code again that I copied out of the settings menu. I think you just go to settings and share, maybe. And then you can copy the HTML. So there it is. However, I want to change the height and the width so we can view the entire form. It'll be more useful to users. And now I'm also, on that same page, I'm going to go ahead and post the calendar as well. And what's really nice is I just went to settings, I went to calendar, I went to embed, and see on the side I can click multiple calendars. So in this one iframe, in this one embedded object, I can include all of the calendars that of rooms available. I'm naming it right now, room reservation, update, and now I'm just going to copy this over too and put it on my site. Paste. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and use center to center it. That looks good, and the calendar's right below it. Now I'm going to change these sizes a bit, and I'm also going to move the calendar to the top. The reason being is that I'll direct people to this page or whatever page it is on to reserve a room, but I want them to see the calendar first so they don't just throw in a date and get a conflict email or get two conflict emails, because it's really frustrating. So this way they can see the calendar themselves. Oh, it is available at that time, and I'm going to go ahead and schedule it. And again, the reason we have conflict emails is sometimes you miss it, maybe they just kind of rush through, but that way they can see the calendar themselves. What's really nice too is with how fast it updates, they'll see their reservation within a minute, even faster. So they'll know, oh yeah, it's there, and I now have that time. Yeah, and again, I found this most useful in circumstances such as school. So, being a teacher, I'm well aware of room reservations, but at businesses, I did it in college as well. And it can be pretty straightforward once you kind of dive into the details. Again, I'm going to post the code below. I'm going to post my sample email stuff below. Use it all, change it how you want or how you need. I hope to do another video of this soon where I'm going to add on some features, such as the ability for someone to approve or not of an event, instead of just having it automatically schedule if that time is available, as well as possibly making it complicating it with possible doctors and rooms. We'll see. Regardless, if you are here and watching this video at this point, you should hit like, you should hit subscribe. It gives me warm fuzzies, butterflies, wings, makes everything good in this world, and all of that. And if you have some issue or problem with app scripts that you think I might be able to tackle, feel free to shoot me an email or post a comment. No promises, but I might be able to help. Now for an awkward ending that I don't know what to say. Should I just stare in the camera? Until next time.